There's been a lot of debate into the recent rise in tuition fees. A lot of people think it's unfair that people who are academically able to go to university are not able to because they don't have the money. But there's two sides to the coin. What about the universities? The UK has some of the best universities in the world, and they need the money in order to fund their research and keep being on the top of the tables and providing all this excellent service. And the money doesn't come from nowhere. There's no denying that £27,000 is an awful lot of money to spend on your degree, especially longer courses. I mean, I'm a medical student personally, and that's 5 or 6 years. So looking at £45,000 or £54,000, and that is a frightful amount of money to think about spending. The rise might also negatively affect masters and PhD students, which isn't good. There's been an awful lot of protesting about the tuition fees, and they're still going on. Just last Saturday there was a protest in Manchester and London where there were 16 arrests, and that kind of brings me on to its effectiveness. Someone from the Mail on Sunday, Peter Hitchens, said that any government that has any fortitude at all has to show it's not influenced by that stuff, and he was referring to the protesters. So maybe it depends on the aim of the protests. If their aim is to change the government policy, then maybe they're not going to be that effective. But if their aim is to raise awareness, then they've certainly done that, because it was printed all over the tabloids. You could argue that that's only the case because there was violence, but I think the violence only serves to detract from the real message of the protests. I think that the fact that the Lib Dems voted, lots of them voted for the rise, has affected the trust that lots of people in the young generation have, because they signed the charter, they were saying they're so against it, and people believed them, and then they they voted for the rise, and I think that lots of people lost faith in the Lib Dems because of that. And Cameron's just as guilty. I mean, he said that there were no plans to bring major reform to the NHS, and the white paper's just been published, and the NHS is going under one of the biggest reforms in its history. I think it's wrong that people who are from a poor background can't go to university. I don't think that should influence them. The student loan for university students is entirely covered by student finance, and in terms of physically being able to, you should still be able to, but obviously the idea of being in 27 grand of debt is not pleasant. But there's the argument whether your salary will increase the amount of money you get, so it could be worthwhile in the long run. There was a report, and also there's something to say is the government have changed the way we pay loans back. It's not just we're hiking up the fees and you have to pay them back in a short time quickly. They've lengthened the time. There was a report in BBC News that said some ministers proposed the idea that government will pay 1 year, the uni would mirror that, and then the individual would pay 1 year of education, which would be 9 grand, which is what it used to be over 3 years. So they'd be paying the same, which I think is a great idea. It's good that they would still be able to be funded, but unfortunately the study on BBC News said it was not going to be taken forward, which is a shame. But I do hope for something like that in the future.